Okay, let's just get started right away. Welcome everybody. How you doing? Hold on, and fading the music. Trying to be of quality. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, and the chat room. Hi, chat room. There you are, you lovely folks. Still a little more transparent than I would like you, but I'm making small changes as we go. I've been trying to find a way to make the text brighter without making the background brighter because it's only available in a certain blue. So it just kind of blends. It's a difficult thing. I'm feng shuiing the spaceship on the regular. By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. The greatest live stream in the history of live streams as it continues to be. Hello, everybody there. There's a lot to cover today. I was a little late because I got caught up watching what I commonly refer to in my own head as the bullshit brigade. And there were a couple of things in particular, let's see if I can find it in my history, that I was just watching. Trump just signed this transgender out of women's sports thing. Hold on, I'll find that. Okay, there we go. I found it. And there was a crucial part of this, blather, bullshit, whatever. And I would like to point out that in talking about this, they have switched to what I have been saying all along. That this isn't a question of gender, it's a question of sex. And if you're making the distinctions under Title IX that it's a question of sex, people can't change their sex because it's inherent in your birth and blah, blah, blah. That instead of just going, we're going to die on this hill of transgender, or there's only two genders, they have fallen back to there's only two sexes. They have switched around the language on this, okay? And it's not an accident. It's because they recognize the fail point is too close on an argument about gender because gender is a descriptor, not a definition. Sex is a definition, gender is not. And gender can be open and descriptive of a lot of different things, you know what I mean? And it can have within it the entire spectrum of humanity. And so, instead of trying to force Title IX to defend gender, they have just fallen back to sex, which was the original reason anyways. It doesn't matter, though, when a trans person takes hormones, it changes their biology. Not enough, KJ Doglove, in terms of if they're already full grown or any of those kind of things. There's a lot built into this. Fear not. We're not going to re-argue this point. I'm just saying they know that's a lost cause in that regard, and they will sometimes slip and overlay the language. But really, what they're talking about is defining it by sex. The problem is they don't want to say sex all the time because the word creeps them out because they're stupid. So man and woman, again, can be a defining characteristic like male or female, but really it's a descriptor. Does that make sense? Yeah, sex. Just go ahead and say it in the chat room. It annoys a maggot near you. They get all flinchy. Yes, sex. Ugh. So what they're doing, yeah, isn't it nice? It's very freeing just to say sex and defined by sex and the like. As a matter of fact, if you'll recall, what was the RGB movie on the matter of sex or something along those lines, right? So the point is, most of the time, better to set the spectrum between masculine and feminine when referring to gender. Completely agree. So that's where it opens up to the social world as opposed to the material aspect of things. And the material aspect of things start out in one particular way. How malleable they are is an unscientific, unprovable at this point. And there's no way to. The problem is there's no way to find out without major doing some sort of like experimenting on living human beings. Okay. Am I quiet? I think I'm loud enough. I should be loud enough. Check. I'm going into the red a little bit, not too much, a little bit. So the crucial part is that it's well, let's see if he does this stupid fallback. Where is this? Let me see if I can find the part where he does this before.
And we're counting on Linda McMahon, Virginia. Thank you. You don't want to know how good he.
I'm going to bring up this point because I was just watching this.
Have that haircut, Mike.
Okay, he goes back. He's thanking a lot of people. He thinks it's very short. He doesn't really want to do it. And let's see if I can find the exact moment.
In one event by 440 pounds.
Hold on. Okay, so he's talking about we've heard him talk about this
And
before.
they continue to defend themselves, Mr. Congressman. You know that, right? They continue to
Mr.
defend
Congressman,
themselves.
I don't remember your name, but Mr. whoever you are, Mr. Congressman, you're wearing a Congress pin, so that must be true.
Petitions designed in place first. We're starting to understand what heroism is, sweeping our armed forces.
Okay, yeah. So he talks about that and the recruitment being up because
Day, nearly 350
yeah, that's
people are great heroes and very important to
Oh, by the way,
understand what hero is all about. So
okay. So he says the military recruitment is back up. It was in December, 1 month. Nobody has said anything about January, and it's the best in 15 years, which was like a low point during the Iraq War. It's always been a little rough. Again, as you start firing people or kicking people out of government jobs, the military recruitment goes up too. So whatever, and that's people in line with like, oh, what government job can I get that won't end up getting me fired later on by some weirdo? Anyways, so notice he says heroes. I'm just saying specifically. Notice he says heroes. That's an affront to the whole Shiro's idea, or hero being a masculine word to him. Just, he doesn't say heroes, not heroines, right? Okay. Just to be real clear, like there's little subtle digs all over the place. And also, can I point out something that is sort of buried beneath this whole, transgender freak out that they have had on the right, is that this allows them, again, to cement women as the weaker sex. The whole argument behind this whole thing, because, and you can tell that it is a distinct difference because nobody is scared of trans men competing in men's sports at all. Doesn't get brought up. It's like 2 instances in super featherweight where some people like fought to a draw or won, but it's not, men are not worried about trans men encroaching no matter how many hormones they get. They're just not, because the balance of physical, heart size, lung capacity, bone density, muscle, like grip strength, all kinds of shit already favors the masculine body in those areas. And so the distinction was made there to create Title IX so that women could, have their own sports so that they could develop to the extent that they can within those things. I mean, there's a reason why I suppose there's not a baby rearing male competition or something. I don't know what to the absolute sexism of creating those ideas. But the reason they're for this, right? Crickets with trans men. That's because they don't consider them a threat, and they haven't been because of the nature of just physical being at this point. And they know this. And one of the reasons why they're hammering this is because they want to push the idea and continue to like put a thumb on the idea that women are weaker. Women are physically weaker. This is and on a material level, in general, kind of true. Doesn't really come up in civil society, but that's what they want to push. The root of I would argue, the root of all like anti-gay stuff, especially the push against gay men and the acceptance of sort of like lesbians as just 2 women waiting around for a dude to come along, which is kind of the macho bullshit joke about lesbians for a long time. The reason like the maggots of the world don't like gay men is because they perceive them, and hear me on this, they perceive them as men who are acting like women or allowing men to do to them what women allow to be done to them. And women are weak, and therefore that gay man is allowing himself to be debased the way that look at Andrew Tate, like his attitude towards gay men it is parallel to his disdain for women. Does that make sense? Because it's all wrapped up in their fucking idiocy. But that's where it comes from. It's not just rooted in this kind of like blanket. There's an underlying pathology to this idiocy. Okay. So this is for the religious right movement a bit, but not entirely, because again, in terms of trans women in women's sports, there is a groundswell of people who are against it across the political spectrum, in the broads. The only outliers seem to be the people who believe they absolutely should and it shouldn't be an issue at all, or with certain safety precautions or certain periods by which they have to be undergoing hormones, or they have to be, fully trans. The problem is that the language was never defined before the rule started getting set, which is why he can attack it the way he is. Okay. KJ Doglove, y'all ignorant. Sorry. Well, that's the issue, isn't it? Because if the public isn't square on what's going on, the ignorance is too easy to play on. This goes to every issue that we talk about. Trump's bullshit about Gaza and these people believing that somehow he was going to be better for it. And now we know, right? Isn't that based on the same kind of generalized ignorance? So the rule is either the people who are involved have work to do to explain what the circumstance is in terms that people who are not participants in it or not a part of it can understand. Okay. And there are more straight men on Grindr than gay. Then they aren't straight. I don't know what that means. Just mean closeted, but that's why they use an app. That's more about that. Anyways, so the same thing is sort of true here. And if it's not just like trans people shouldn't be responsible for explaining the circumstance, if there's a failure to understand it, or there's a failure to clarify a system by which you can set some very clearly defined rules that are meaningful, then it's the fault of the person who's proposing this idea. How many trans athletes are out there? Well, he brings up the record in the idea that they have claimed 4,400 records in women's sports. From powerlifting to swimming to trail biking. It's way more than 10. But they've won 4,400 things. That's the point that they bring up in there. It's a legit number. It doesn't matter. Again, we're not justifying his response to it by just talking about the truth and how it's laid out. The issue largely has been the kind of fluidity of non-binary mixed in with trans, which I would say those are two different things. If you're trans, you're transitioning. If you're non-binary, you don't believe in transitional poles in the first place, so you're not trans, right? And that's the language thing. Okay, again, never really, it wasn't like there was a constitutional gathering to establish these things, right? There wasn't, right? So even amongst the community, there's a disagreement about how to speak about it, how to deal with it, all those kind of things. And that allows, because if you want to set rules on something that isn't clearly defined, it allows people like him to play at the weak edges of it, to stick a crowbar in because there's plenty of cracks. Does that make sense at least? Again, not justifying it, trying to find a long-term solution, trying to make it clear that we have work to do before we assume everybody gets it like we do. How about you shouldn't be telling other people how to label themselves. Again, labels don't have anything to do with it. Again, this is the definer versus the definition before instead of a descriptor. You can describe yourself however you want. Oh, Facebook is looking like it's down? Okay, I'll see what I can do. Hold on. All of them look like they're off right now. What the heck? Did I go away? I'll reload this and see if it's happening. No, there. Okay, I'm up. It's just a weird little thing. According to this, I'm up on Facebook, but nobody's seeing it. So maybe I'm just being. Did my page get ripped? I don't know. Let's see. I view it on there. I'm going to view it on the Facebook page. Nope, I'm up. I'm on Facebook. Hi, Facebook. Hi, everybody. What's happening? Okay. So maybe it's just not in the chat or something like that. If you're in Facebook, say hello. So it'll start pumping through or something. Yeah. So that's it. Okay, we're okay where we are, and this is what happens. Yeah, I'm an ally. Understand that that allies can speak freely because we're doing it from a point of caring. And if you're trying to communicate a reality to somebody else and they don't speak the language, a translator is a good idea. Both directions. Again, don't be in kill the messenger mode when obviously shit like this is happening, because there was a weakness in the communication around it. Okay? And you could, there is a very clean and very direct argument for why, for that the people most entrenched in an issue can do more damage than good if they believe that everybody else knows the jargon, or that jargon is enough, right, in talking about these things. Yeah. The exploitation of public ignorance is a long-time political tactic. Completely agree, Mark. Yes. No Facebook. That's weird. Let me see if I can shut it off and turn it back on. See what happens there. Oops. Okay. Cancel. Okay, hold on. You can re-enable the channel at any time and choose to create a new event. Channel. Okay. Confirm. Why did that go there? Okay. And there we go. And then there's the back of the thing. It's saving, and then I'll turn it back on, see if it wakes up. It says we're sending data on Facebook, and we'll be back up there in just a second. Craziness. Hey, by the way, if you're on any of the other channels besides Facebook, hit that like, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc. Help me get some reach out there, because this is a conversation that is not being had. Just saying. Not at all. This is no one's having this conversation. No one is having, and maybe because they're afraid. Maybe because, and I've said this many times, fuck this guy. Why don't I even have him on the screen while we're talking about this stuff? As a comedian, I've always said, and you guys know that in terms of the show, that there are no partisan issues. There are partisan solutions. You can talk about a circumstance, and even if your argument is that exists, but it's not a problem, that in and of itself is a partisan. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice, right? Okay. Hey, there we go. Hi, Facebook. So the key to these circumstances is that you're allowed to have kick the tires conversations, okay, around any argument, especially from the people that care, right? Because I would argue all the shit I was saying about those fraudulent, uncommitted assholes and the people stampeding around the fucking DNC, who again went nowhere near Mar-a-Lago when Netanyahu was down there, that I would say that those people are allegedly on the same side of all of us in terms of we wanted a two-state solution, we wanted a peaceful settlement for the Gazans, we wanted, all these things. Been trying to work on it for a while, and those guys who allegedly were for it undermined it worse than anyone, and they would be the first people to tell you that even conversing about the details of it, what it would look like, how does it happen, what are the material aspects of it, what would the basis of a treaty even be, how dare you, from the river to the sea, stomp, stomp, right? That's how they responded to a lot of these things. And so you couldn't even have a conversation, so you're never going to get to a solution. And then when you don't do that, because at some point somebody's got to have some input or whatever, it's going to be a bull in a china shop like Trump. You tee that shit up. Somebody at some point, the only people who are allowed to talk in those situations, I didn't cut it, it's just back in a ponytail. The only people that are allowed to talk in a situation where people are more concerned about decorum than the ideas are the people who don't give a fuck. Luckily, I'm on your side, and I don't give a fuck. My motto has always been care enough not to give a shit. We can speak frankly about these things, and I'm never going to be canceled over any of these things, even though I've talked about the entire spectrum of things, because it is, I think, abundantly clear in how I talk about them that I actually want them solved in a way that helps the most people and that is, indicative of reality especially for those that are on the downslope of society, in a circumstance where they can't speak for themselves. Okay. And so that matters to me. And if anybody comes along and goes, you don't, or blah, 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 fuck them. I don't care. I don't think they're serious. As a matter of fact, the idea that you take anybody that you haven't met in person or at least been speaking to for a very long time online as a serious input into your plan for something as important as LGBT rights or as Gaza or any of that, any number of issues, climate change, whatever it is, if you just take it by rote because they say the right words occasionally, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a minute, this was just a fucking sock puppet account. These people don't actually care about this at all. So when I talk about these things, it's because I'm trying to explain to you why the fuck people can't see what you want them to see or hear what you want them to hear. And how a lot of times it's simply a matter of translation. You're just speaking different words. Obama brought up at one point about guns, that people were talking at cross purposes. And that people in the South, out in the sticks, have a different attitude towards guns and personal safety than people that live in apartment buildings and downtowns of areas, because in a city that dense, you can call the cops and they will be there. Whereas out in the sticks, even if it's a nice area out in the sticks, it's going to take them 45 minutes to an hour to get to you. And so they have a different attitude about it, right? And so when you're talking to those different groups about the limitations on arms, you're going to need different language to discuss it. Am I getting somewhere with you guys? Or at least hearing some of this? Okay. So Trump in this thing, let's see if I can find the part where he goes, if I may, on a point, he makes a point about like the sports stuff. Let's see, behind these things. He does one of his little stupid asides, because the remarks that he makes aren't meaningful, really. It's the same shit we've heard. He's talking about AGs that are there.
Hi. Was your Marshall? Thank you. It was Ronald Reagan, college coach. It was very good. Bill Lee of Tennessee to the stage. Morrissey, Patrick, congrats.
He's just saying hi to people.
You look good. World, we're ranked very, very poorly.
Okay, here we go.
Education, going back to your state, you'll make.
Okay, so this is, I want you to pay attention to this. What did I fucking tell you this? In talking to the great Chris Titus this morning, which was a lot of fun, and of course Philip Ittner. At one point I brought up that if you broomed out the red states, America's education numbers get pretty damn good. We get competitive really fucking fast if you take the red state test scores out of it, especially that kind of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida Panhandle zone, southern Georgia, places like that. They just, like, you remove those, our average goes way high comparatively. Okay, so listen. I want you to listen to what he fucking says here. And I know I'm sorry that this requires you listening to his stupid fucking voice, but I want you to listen to this. Because it's important. Like, he doesn't even realize he's saying it, I don't think, but watch.
Good job. Do you like education, going back to your state? You'll make it top, right? Just so people understand in the education.
Again, this is him going aside, and you can always count on these for little nuggets of horseshit.
World, we're ranked very, very poorly. We're 38, 39, and 40 out of 40 countries.
Sorry, I didn't know we were 3 out of 40 countries. Maybe the idea that he thinks we're 3 countries is why we have such a low ranking.
We're at the bottom of the pack almost always, or very close to it. That just came out. We're 40 out of 40.
Well, then why'd you say 38, 39 out of 40? So it's gotten worse since you got elected. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting. Pay attention.
And if we move it back to the states, I will guarantee you that if you take Idaho, you take Iowa, you take almost any of the states.
Red state senators in front of him. If you guys he's talking about these states. He knows which ones are the problem. They have had this conversation. Either Elon Musk has brought it up to him, or somebody in there, or Betsy DeVos is like, the fucking red states are eating shit. If we didn't have these assholes, if we didn't have to look at their numbers, this is like COVID numbers. Remember when he didn't want the cruise ship to land because it fucked with his average of numbers of cases in the states? Okay, remember that stuff? Same thing. He's like, if I could just get the fucking red states broomed out of the number, where we don't have a Department of Education, so we don't have a unifying number, it's about the states, then we can brag about some of our states being the smartest in the world, and that would be all the blue states.
States that I'm looking at right now, they'll be as good as Norway. You have Sweden, you have Denmark. I must say you have China, that's very high in the pack, which is no longer, we can say it has to be a small area. China is very big, but they do a very good job. But we'll have at least 35 of our states that will be as good or better than any of those countries.
He already fucking said it. That's what I'm talking about. We already have that, motherfucker. 35 of our states, if you took out the rest, He just said it, basically. He said, you take out the shitty states and the ones that are sitting right in front of him. All the red state senators, if you guys got your shit together, or we just removed you from the fucking statistics, 35 of our states would make us like number 1 or number 2 in the world. Fuck me. That's exactly what I said. God damn. If you just got rid of the statistics from the red states, the United States' education numbers would be in the top 5 all the time. All the time. And when he says 35 of the states, and why he's pointing it like, you could take Idaho and you take like, if you could just get those numbers up. You didn't say Alabama, Mississippi, right? He's talking about like the fringe red states that drag the number down. If you could just boost those up a little bit, 35, we would just ignore fucking Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana. They're fucking stupid. That's what he's saying. 35 out of the 50 states. That's what he fucking means. Fuck Tennessee and you like... And whatever the districts around Virginia and other areas that are and Georgia that are close to Appalachia, Missouri, right? That's it. This is his aside. This is he's starting to get presidential briefings again. They're having meetings about this, and he's like rolling his eyes at fucking maggots dragging down his averages.
And we have to get it done.
Not happy with the red states in front of him who are dragging the fucking number down. This is the only thing meaningful in any of this, because he was just reading remarks and whatever the fuck, and we knew he was going to do this and all that shit. It's really important that you recognize that you parse the signal part out of the noise part, and there's nothing he can do to get those numbers up except force education standards